The alien signal. The control room of the alien station was always busy, filled with faint humming sounds of advanced technology and the quiet chatter of the crew. The vast station floated silently in the dark void of space, far from any known conflict. The aliens stationed there prided themselves on their order and efficiency. This was a place of observation, not war. Then the silence was broken. A loud alarm echoed through the station, flashing red lights bathing the room in an eerie glow. Every alien froze for a second, their large eyes wide with shock. The alarm was rare, reserved for extreme threats. The crew quickly scrambled to their stations, their thin fingers gliding over glowing control panels. The commander, a tall alien with deep blue skin and sharp angular features, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. "Report." One of the technicians, a nervous-looking alien with pale green skin, glanced up from his console. His voice trembled. "Commander Zorath, we are detecting an unidentified object entering our sector. It's massive." Zorath narrowed her eyes. "Can you identify the origin?" The technician hesitated, then his voice dropped to a whisper. "It's human." The entire room fell silent. The word human carried weight among the stars. Humans were known for their unpredictability, their fierce wars, and their unmatched resilience. Stories of human victories against impossible odds had spread far, and the aliens knew better than to underestimate them. Zorath's voice cut through the silence. "Are you certain?" "Yes, Commander," the technician confirmed. "The signature matches their war vessels." The tension in the room grew thicker. Zorath's mind raced. What was a human warship doing here, in a region far from their usual territories? Were they lost? Or was this an invasion? "Show me," she ordered. The main screen in the control room flickered to life. A blurry image appeared, slowly sharpening into a clear view of the approaching object. It was enormous, a dark silhouette against the stars, with sharp angles and glowing lights. The human ship looked like a predator, silent and deadly. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Zorath felt the weight of their fear, but kept her expression unreadable. "How close is it?" 3 light minutes away and closing," another technician reported. "They're moving at sublight speed. No signs of communication." Zorath frowned. This wasn't normal behavior for humans. If they were here for battle, they would have attacked already. If they were peaceful, they would have sent a signal. This silence was unnerving. "Activate the defensive shields," Zorath commanded. "Prepare all weapons, but do not fire unless I give the order." The crew obeyed swiftly, their hands moving in practiced motions. The station's shields flickered to life, a faint blue glow surrounding the structure. Weapons were charged and ready, aimed directly at the approaching vessel. "Should we send a warning, Commander?" one of the senior officers asked. Zorath hesitated. Sending a message could be seen as a sign of fear or aggression, but silence could also lead to misunderstandings. She weighed the options quickly. "Send a neutral message. Make it clear we are monitoring their approach." The officer nodded and began typing. Moments later, the message was sent. "Unidentified human vessel. State your purpose in this sector. Any hostile actions will be met with force." The room waited in tense silence. Seconds felt like hours as they watched the human ship draw closer. Every alien in the room held their breath, their eyes fixed on the main screen. No response, the communications officer finally said. Zorath's jaw tightened. What game were the humans playing? She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Humans were bold, but they weren't reckless. If they were here, there had to be a reason. "Keep scanning," she ordered. "I want to know everything about that ship. Crew size, weaponry, damage, anything you can find." The technicians worked furiously, their screens lighting up with streams of data. One of them spoke up, his voice shaky. "Commander, the ship is heavily armed. Their weapons could destroy this station in minutes." The room grew even quieter, the weight of that statement sinking in. Zorath refused to let fear show. And their shields? Active but weak, the technician replied. It's strange. Their power levels are fluctuating. It's as if their systems are damaged. Damaged? Zorath's brow furrowed. If the ship was in trouble, why hadn't they asked for help? Was this a trap? Or were they truly desperate? The ship grew larger on the screen, its ominous silhouette casting a shadow over the control room. Zorath felt the tension in the air, the fear of her crew. She knew they were looking to her for leadership, for a decision. Her voice was steadied as she gave her next order. Hold your positions. No one fires without my command. The human ship continued its silent approach, a looming question mark in the dark expanse of space. Zorath stood tall, her sharp eyes fixed on the screen. Whatever was about to happen, she knew one thing for sure. This was no ordinary encounter. The commander's dilemma. The control room was a storm of quiet tension. The massive human warship loomed closer, its sheer size dwarfing anything the alien station had ever encountered. It moved with eerie precision, like a predator stalking prey. Yet it did not fire, did not hail, did not explain its presence. Commander Zorath paced slowly, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. Her sharp mind ran through the possibilities. A scout ship testing their defenses, a damaged vessel seeking aid, or, worst of all, a deliberate trap. None of these options comforted her. "Commander," said Call, her second in command, a lean alien with pale orange skin and sharp black eyes. "We cannot wait much longer. The crew is on edge. If this ship attacks, we must strike first." Zorath stopped pacing and turned to him. Her voice was low, controlled. "And if it's not here to attack? If we provoke it without cause, Call, we risk drawing the wrath of the entire human fleet." The crew exchanged nervous glances. They all knew the stories. Humans were relentless when provoked. Entire sectors had been turned to ash in retaliation for a single slight. "But Commander," Call pressed, "their silence is a threat in itself. They are testing us, playing with our nerves." Zorath held his gaze, her expression unreadable. Humans are unpredictable, but they are not irrational. They are here for a reason, and I intend to find out what it is before we doom ourselves to war. She turned to the communications officer. "Send another message, stronger this time. No threats, just clarity. They will respond, or they will force our hand." The officer nodded, typing swiftly. Moments later, the new message was sent. "Unidentified human vessel. This is Commander Zorath of the Zorathian Defense Station. You are entering restricted space. State your purpose immediately or prepare for defensive measures." The room held its collective breath, eyes fixed on the screen. The ship was close enough now that they could see its hull, scarred and burned in places. The sleek design and the sheer number of weapon ports still made it look terrifyingly lethal. Still no response, the communications officer reported, his voice tight. Zorath's jaw clenched. What game were these humans playing? Every instinct told her to order a preemptive strike, to unleash the station's arsenal and ensure their safety. But her instincts also whispered caution. There was something off about this situation, something she couldn't yet see. "Commander," Call said again, his tone urgent. "We cannot ignore this any longer. If they are damaged, they are vulnerable. If they are a threat, they are biding their time. Either way, we must act." Zorath's gaze shifted to the main screen, her sharp eyes scanning the approaching vessel. There was no visible movement, no sign of aggression, but its presence alone was a challenge. Her crew's confidence was cracking under the weight of the unknown. "Prepare the main weapon systems," she ordered finally. "Do not fire until I give the command." The crew moved quickly, energizing the station's powerful plasma cannons. The low hum of charging weapons filled the room, adding to the already suffocating tension. As they worked, a new report came in from the scanners. One of the technicians, a young alien named Fira, looked up with wide, anxious eyes. Commander, I've detected fluctuations in their energy core. It's unstable, badly damaged. Zorath's head snapped toward Fira. Unstable. How badly? Critical levels, Fira replied. Their ship could be days, or even hours, from a complete systems collapse. They're barely holding together. The revelation sent a ripple through the room. Whispers spread among the crew. If the humans were on the brink of destruction, why weren't they asking for help? Pride, stubbornness, or something else entirely? Commander, Call said, his tone softer now, if their ship is failing, this could be our chance. We could end this without risking the station. Destroy them now, before they recover, or before they call for reinforcements. Zorath stared at the screen, her mind racing. If she destroyed the human ship now, it would be easy to justify self-defense. Her crew would be safe, the station intact. But if she was wrong, if these humans were not aggressors, her actions could spark a war that would ripple across the galaxy. No, she said at last, her voice firm. I will not fire on a ship that hasn't attacked us. Call opened his mouth to protest, but Zorath cut him off. Enough. My decision is final. The room fell silent. Zorath's reputation as a commander was built on her unwavering resolve, and no one dared challenge her now. Maintain shields and weapons, she ordered. Continue scanning for any signs of hostile action, and send one final message. The communications officer waited for her words. Zorath's voice was calm but carried a warning. Human vessel, you are on the verge of collapse. If you do not respond, we will consider your silence an act of hostility. This is your final warning. As the message was sent, Zorath returned to the center of the room, her eyes never leaving the screen. The human ship drifted closer, its silence louder than any threat. What are you hiding? She thought, her fingers tightening into fists. In the silence of space, the warship loomed larger, a puzzle wrapped in fear and uncertainty. And Zorath knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened next, it would change everything. The first contact attempt. The human vessel drifted ever closer, its ominous silence clawing at the nerves of every alien in the control room. Commander Zorath's sharp eyes remained fixed on the massive ship displayed on the main screen. Each passing second without a response felt like an eternity. Commander, Call's voice broke the silence, his usual confidence now tinged with desperation. We're running out of options. They've ignored every message. We cannot assume they're friendly. Zorath didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped closer to the screen, studying the ship's dark hull. It was heavily scarred, its once sleek frame now marred by what looked like plasma burns and debris impacts. The damage told a story. A battle fought hard and barely survived. Commander, Fira, the young scanner technician, interrupted. I'm detecting life forms aboard the human vessel. Zorath turned swiftly. How many? 50. No, closer to 40. It's hard to tell. Their life support systems are failing, and their energy readings are chaotic. This revelation sent a chill through the room. Humans were tenacious, but a crew of 40 on a ship designed for hundreds meant one thing. They were either survivors or remnants of something much worse. Call's voice was grim. Desperate or not, 40 humans are still 40 potential killers. We cannot let them come closer. Zorath raised a hand, silencing him. 40 survivors do not pose the same threat as a fully armed warship. There's more to this. She turned to the communications officer. Open a wide-frequency channel. If they won't respond to our warnings, perhaps they'll respond to something else. The officer hesitated, then nodded, activating the channel. Zorath stepped forward, her voice steady and commanding. Human vessel, this is Commander Zorath of the Zorathian Defense Station. I see your ship is damaged. Your life support is failing. We can assist you, but you must respond. Silence will be taken as hostility. This is your last chance. Her words hung in the air as the crew waited, tense and silent. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ship's comm system crackled to life, filling the room with static. A voice emerged, deep, gravelly, and strained. It carried the weight of exhaustion and pain, but also a sharp edge of resolve. "This is Captain Doran of the human vessel Resolute. We are not here to fight." The entire control room froze, every eye turning to the screen as if expecting the human captain himself to appear. "Captain Doran," Zorath replied carefully. "Your silence was unsettling. Explain your presence in this sector." There was a pause, followed by a labored breath from the human captain. "Our ship was ambushed by an enemy fleet, unknown species, highly advanced. We barely escaped. We need time to repair, to survive." The word sent a ripple through the room. An unknown enemy. The galaxy had no shortage of hostile forces, but for a human warship to be so damaged and fleeing spoke of a threat even more fearsome than the humans themselves. Zorath's voice remained calm, though her mind raced. "And you expect us to trust that you will not turn those weapons on us once you've recovered?" Another pause. The human captain's tone softened, though it remained heavy with exhaustion. "Commander, if we had the strength to fight you, we wouldn't be limping toward your station like wounded animals. Our weapons are offline. Our shields are barely functioning. Help us or don't. But if you attack, know this: the enemy that chased us will find you next." The room grew even quieter, the weight of the human's words settling over the crew. The implication was clear. Whatever had hunted the Resolute would not stop with them. Cal leaned closer to Zorath, speaking in a hushed tone. "Commander, this could be a ploy. Humans are masters of deception. They could be feigning weakness." Zorath nodded slightly, acknowledging this point. But there was something in Captain Doran's voice, an edge of raw truth that was hard to fake. Humans were many things, but cowards they were not. "Captain Doran," Zorath said after a moment, "you say an unknown enemy attacked you. What do you know about them?" The captain's response was immediate, almost desperate. "Little. Their ships were fast, cloaked in some kind of energy field we couldn't penetrate. They tore through 3 of our sister ships before we managed to escape. If you don't believe me, scan our logs. You'll see for yourself." Zorath turned to Fira. "Can we access their logs remotely?" Fira's fingers flew across her console. "I can try, Commander. It will take a few moments." "Do it," Zorath ordered, then returned her attention to the human captain. "If what you say is true, you may have brought that enemy here. You've endangered my station, my crew." Doran's voice was strained but unflinching. "I don't deny that. But if they're coming, you'll want us alive. We fought them. We know what they can do. You don't." The room fell into a heavy silence. Zorath's mind churned with possibilities. Trusting the humans could be a fatal mistake, but dismissing their warnings could be worse. "Commander," Fira called out, her voice tense, "I've accessed the logs, and he's telling the truth." All eyes turned to the screen as fragments of recorded battles appeared. The alien crew watched in horror as ships unlike anything they had ever seen ripped through human fleets with terrifying ease. Zorath's breath caught in her throat. Whatever was coming wasn't just a human problem. It was a galactic threat. She looked back at the screen, her expression unreadable. "Captain Doran, we will help you. But if you betray us, I'll see to it that you don't survive long enough to regret it." The human captain chuckled weakly. "Fair enough, Commander. Fair enough." And as the human ship edged closer to the station, Zorath couldn't shake the feeling that the true danger was only just beginning. The silent advance. The control room buzzed with a mixture of fear and urgency. Commander Zorath had made her decision, but the unease among her crew was palpable. The human warship, now identified as the Resolute, continued its slow, silent approach toward the Zorathian defense station. Its hulking frame, battered but still imposing, seemed to radiate an aura of quiet menace. "Commander," Call said, his tone tight, "the shields are holding at full power, But if they get any closer, we'll have no margin for error. Their weapons might be damaged, but we cannot assume they're harmless." Zorath didn't respond immediately. Her sharp eyes remained locked on the screen, analyzing every detail of the approaching vessel. The Resolute looked less like a warship now and more like a drifting tomb. Its hull was riddled with jagged scars from recent battles, and faint trails of energy leaked from cracks in its armor, like a wounded beast bleeding into the void. "What are they hiding?" Zorath murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "Commander," Fira interrupted, her voice trembling. "The human vessel is transmitting another signal. It's not a message. It's data." "Data." Zorath turned sharply. "What kind of data?" "I'm decrypting it now," Fira replied, her fingers flying across the glowing console. Moments later, the screen filled with images, grainy recordings of a battle. The room went silent as the crew watched in horrified fascination. The recording showed sleek, dark ships, unlike anything in the galactic records. They moved with terrifying speed, their energy fields shimmering like liquid shadows. The human vessels fired everything they had: plasma cannons, railguns, missile barrages. But the enemy ships absorbed the attacks with ease, countering with devastating precision. One by one, the human ships exploded in flashes of light, leaving the Resolute as the lone survivor. The final moments of the recording showed a haunting image: a massive oblong structure looming in the background, pulsing with an unnatural glow. It resembled a living organism more than a spacecraft. "What is that thing?" Call whispered, his usual bravado replaced by unease. "Commander," Fira said, her voice tight. "The data includes coordinates. It seems the humans were retreating from that structure. It's not far from here." Zorath's mind raced. The humans weren't lying. Whatever had attacked them was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. And now it was close. "Fira," Zorath said, her tone firm, "continue analyzing the data. I want every detail on that enemy ship and the structure. Call, ensure the station remains on full alert. If that enemy is nearby, we need to be ready." Call hesitated, his gaze flicking to the screen where the Resolute still loomed. "And the humans? What if this is all a distraction? They could be luring us into a trap." Zorath turned to him, her expression hard. "If they wanted us dead, they wouldn't have shared this information. For now, we work with them, but keep the weapons ready. I won't let my guard down." Call gave a reluctant nod, and the room returned to its tense hum of activity. Aboard the Resolute. Minutes later, Zorath's decision became more complicated. A small encrypted message arrived from the Resolute. It was a request for direct communication, but only between Zorath and Captain Doran. Zorath narrowed her eyes. "Private communication. What are they hiding now?" Ignoring Call's warning glance, she accepted the transmission. The screen in front of her lit up, revealing Captain Doran. He was seated in a dimly lit room, his face pale and lined with exhaustion. "Commander Zorath," Doran began, his voice strained but steady. "I sent you the battle data to warn you, but there's something else you need to know." Zorath's eyes narrowed. "Something you didn't include in the transmission?" "Yes," Doran said, his expression darkening. "The enemy we encountered, they're not just hunting humans. They're collecting us." Zorath's brow furrowed. "Collecting? What do you mean?" Doran leaned closer to the screen, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The structure you saw, it's a harvesting ship. It doesn't destroy planets. It drains them. People, energy, resources, everything. We barely escaped, but they won't stop. If they tracked us here, your station is already a target." Zorath's heart sank. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just about humans. This was about survival on a galactic scale. "And what do you propose we do, Captain?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of his words. Doran's lips twisted into a grim smile. "We fight, together, Humans can't win this alone, and neither can you. But if we combine our knowledge and resources, we might stand a chance. Zoreth stared at him, her mind churning. Trusting humans was one thing. Trusting them with the safety of her station and crew was another. But the alternative, a confrontation with an enemy that could harvest entire civilizations, was unthinkable. She made her decision. "Very well, Captain Doran," Zoreth said at last. "We'll assist you in repairing your ship. But make no mistake, if you betray us, you'll wish you hadn't survived your last battle." Doran gave a weary nod. "Understood, Commander. Let's hope we survive long enough to regret this." As the transmission ended, Zoreth turned back to her crew. The human ship had come for help, but it had also brought a storm to her doorstep. Now, they had no choice but to face it together. And somewhere, in the vast darkness of space, the enemy watched and waited. The revelation. The Resolute now hovered just outside the Zorethian station's defensive perimeter, a silent behemoth leaking energy and mystery. The tension aboard the station was electric, with every crew member working at peak efficiency. Yet the unease lingered, an almost tangible cloud that no protocol could dissipate. Commander Zoreth stood in the observation chamber, a large glass-paneled room offering an unfiltered view of the human ship. It looked even worse up close, an intricate latticework of damage and decay. But despite its battered exterior, the vessel carried an undeniable presence, a quiet defiance that mirrored the humans aboard. "Commander," Fura's voice came through Zoreth's communicator, hesitant but urgent. "You need to see this." Zoreth immediately returned to the control room, where the crew was gathered around Fura's station. Streams of data filled the screens, diagrams, energy patterns, and schematics flashing in rapid succession. "What is it?" Zoreth demanded. Fura pointed to a cluster of energy readings. "I've been analyzing the data from the Resolute. At first, I thought these fluctuations were from their damaged systems, but it's not that simple." She tapped a key, and the display shifted to a 3D rendering of the mysterious enemy vessel. Its shimmering energy field glowed menacingly, pulsing in a rhythm that felt almost alive. "This energy signature," Fura continued, "isn't just a shield or weapon. It's biological." "Biological," Call scoffed, stepping closer. "You're saying the ship is alive?" "Yes," Fura replied, her voice firm despite his skepticism. "Or at least partly. The energy field interacts like a living organism. It adapts, reacts, even heals. That's why human weapons were useless against it." Zoreth leaned over the console, her eyes narrowing. "And the structure?" Fura hesitated before pulling up another diagram. "It's worse. The structure isn't just a ship, it's a collector. Its purpose isn't to destroy, but to harvest." The human's captain wasn't lying. "This thing absorbs energy, organic material, and based on these readings, entire populations." The revelation hit the room like a physical blow. Whispers spread among the crew, their voices tinged with fear. "We're not dealing with an army," Call said grimly. "We're dealing with a predator." Zoreth's mind raced. A biological ship with adaptive technology, capable of consuming entire civilizations. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a threat to the station. It was a threat to the galaxy. "Commander," Fura added, her voice quieter now, "there's one more thing." "What?" Zoreth demanded. Fura turned to face her. "The energy signature from the structure. It's faint, but I'm detecting traces of it nearby. It's not just following the Resolute. It's already here." The room went silent. Zoreth felt a cold knot tighten in her chest. "How close?" "Close enough to reach us in hours, maybe less," Fura replied. "I think it's waiting." "Waiting for what?" Call asked, his voice laced with frustration. "For us to make a mistake," Zoreth answered, her tone sharp. "Predators don't waste energy chasing prey. They wait until it's cornered." The First Alliance. The tension was broken by an incoming message from the Resolute. Captain Doran's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim but resolute. "You've seen the data," he said without preamble. "You know what we're up against." Zorath nodded. "We do, and we also know it's already here." Doran's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly recovered. "Then there's no time to waste. We need to prepare it, together." Zorath's expression was unreadable. "And how exactly do you propose we fight something that adapts to every weapon we have?" Doran's lips curled into a grim smile. "We don't fight it directly. We outsmart it. Humans learned the hard way that brute force doesn't work against these things. But they have a weakness." "Which is?" Call interjected skeptically. "They're overconfident," Doran replied. "They rely on their ability to adapt, but that makes them slow to respond to unconventional tactics. We hit them where they don't expect it." Zorath's eyes narrowed. "And you already have a plan?" Doran nodded. "The structure operates using a central energy node, its brain, if you will. It's heavily shielded, but if we can disrupt its energy flow, we can disable the entire system. The problem is, getting close enough to do that is suicide. And you expect us to volunteer for this suicide mission?" Call snapped. "No," Doran said evenly. "We'll do it, but we need your help to draw its attention. Your station has the firepower to create a diversion while we take the shot." Zorath weighed his words carefully. Trusting humans with such a critical operation was a gamble, but the alternative, a direct confrontation with an invincible predator, was certain death. "Commander," Doran added, his voice quieter now, "I know you don't trust us, but if we don't work together, none of us will survive this." Zorath stared at him, her decision made. "Very well, Captain. We'll provide the diversion. But if you fail, I'll make sure your failure is your last." Doran smirked faintly. "Understood, Commander." As the transmission ended, Zorath turned to her crew. "Prepare the station for combat. We're going to war with something we don't understand, but we'll fight it with everything we have." The room buzzed with renewed energy, the fear replaced by determination. The stakes had never been higher, but Zorath knew one thing. Survival would require not just strength, but unity. And as the distant shadows of the enemy began to close in, Zorath silently vowed that this station, her crew, and the galaxy itself would not fall without a fight. Boarding the vessel, the Resolute docked with the Zorathian station, with a groan of strained metal, the sound reverberating through the hulls of both ships. The docking bay was eerily quiet as the first human figures emerged from the airlock, their movements slow and deliberate. They wore heavy armor, battered but functional, with helmets that obscured their faces. Despite their state, they carried themselves with a distinct air of resilience, a stark contrast to the unease among the Zorathian crew watching from behind the reinforced observation glass. Commander Zorath waited at the entrance to the bay, flanked by Call and a squad of armed guards. Her sharp eyes scanned the humans as they stepped into the station, their boots clanging against the metallic floor. The leader removed his helmet, revealing the haggard but determined face of Captain Doran. His pale skin was streaked with dirt, and his dark eyes carried the weight of countless battles. He looked at Zorath, nodded, and extended a gloved hand. "Commander," he said, his voice rough but steady, "thank you for not shooting us out of the sky." Zorath didn't take his hand. Instead, she folded her arms and studied him carefully. "Let's get one thing clear, Captain. This alliance is temporary. If I sense even the slightest hint of betrayal, you won't leave this station alive." Doran smirked faintly. "Fair enough. But if I were planning to betray you, I wouldn't have let you access our data." Zorath's sharp gaze lingered on him for a moment longer before she nodded toward the docking bay exit. "Follow me. We'll discuss your plan in the war room." The war room. The war room was a large chamber filled with holographic displays and tactical maps. A 3D projection of the enemy structure hovered in the center, its ominous glow casting an eerie light over the room. Doran and his second-in-command, A stern-faced woman named Lieutenant Vega stood on one side of the table, while Zorath and Kal took their places on the other. The tension between the two groups was palpable. "We've identified the energy node," Doran began, pointing to a pulsating point near the base of the structure. "It's heavily shielded, but if we can disable it, the entire system will collapse." Zorath studied the projection. "And how do you plan to get close enough to disable it?" "That thing won't just let us stroll up and pull the plug." Doran tapped the display, zooming in on the structure's outer defenses. "We'll use a stealth shuttle equipped with an EMP device. It's small enough to evade their scanners, but we'll need a distraction to draw their fire." Zorath nodded slowly. "And that's where we come in." "Exactly," Doran replied. "Your station has enough firepower to simulate a full-scale assault. It won't destroy the structure, but it'll keep them occupied long enough for us to get in and disable the node." Kal scoffed. "So we risk our station while you sneak in and hope for the best. Sounds like a great deal. For you." Doran's expression darkened. "This isn't just about humans or Zorathians. If that thing isn't stopped, it'll consume everything in its path, including this station. You're not risking your station for us. You're fighting for your survival." Zorath held up a hand, silencing Kal. "Enough. The captain is right. This isn't a matter of trust. It's necessity." She turned to Doran. "You'll have your distraction. But if your team fails, we won't get a second chance." Doran nodded. "Understood." The briefing ends. As the meeting concluded, the two groups began preparations for the mission. Zorath watched the humans as they returned to their ship to ready the EMP shuttle. Despite her lingering mistrust, she couldn't deny their determination. These were not cowards or schemers. They were survivors, much like her own crew. Kal approached her as the humans departed. "Are you sure about this, Commander? We're putting everything on the line for a plan that might not even work." Zorath's expression softened, though her voice remained firm. "Do you have a better idea, Kal? Because I don't, and neither do they." Kal hesitated, then shook his head. "No, Commander." "Then prepare the crew," Zorath ordered. "We have a fight coming, and I won't have us facing it unprepared. Aboard the Resolute." Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, Captain Doran briefed his team. The EMP shuttle, a sleek, dark craft equipped with advanced cloaking technology, sat in the main hangar, its systems humming quietly. Lieutenant Vega approached him as the team loaded their equipment. "Do you think they'll hold up their end, Captain?" Doran gave a faint smile. "They don't have a choice. Zorath knows what's at stake. She's not the kind to back down." "And if the diversion fails?" Vega asked. Doran's smile faded. "Then we'll improvise. Like always." The countdown begins. As the Zorathian station powered up its weapons and the EMP shuttle prepared for launch, a strange stillness settled over the sector. The enemy ship remained hidden, its presence a looming shadow in everyone's mind. The calm before the storm. Zorath stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic display of the enemy structure. For the first time in her career, she felt the weight of a conflict that went beyond strategy or survival. This was a battle for existence itself. "May the stars be with us," she murmured, her voice barely audible. And with that, the countdown to the most dangerous mission of their lives began. The unexpected alliance. The battle began like a whisper in the dark. A single plasma round fired from the Zorathian station toward the hulking enemy structure. The shot struck the edge of the massive organic mass, sparking against its energy shield. The enemy didn't react immediately, but Zorath knew better than to mistake silence for passivity. "All weapons, fire at will," she ordered, her voice ringing through the control room. The station's guns roared to life, unleashing a barrage of plasma rounds and missiles. The void lit up with the fiery trails of projectiles streaking toward the enemy structure. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the station's firepower might overwhelm the shimmering energy field protecting the Predator. Then, the structure woke. The glowing shield rippled like disturbed water, absorbing the onslaught with ease. A deep, resonating hum echoed across the battlefield as the massive organism began to move, tendrils of energy lashing out like whips. A single strike from one of the tendrils cut through a cluster of unmanned drones sent by the station, reducing them to sparks and debris. Defensive maneuvers, Zorath barked. Keep the fire focused on the outer edges. Draw its attention. Her crew worked with precision, their hands flying over control panels. The station shifted, rotating slightly to present a stronger defensive side while continuing its relentless attack. The EMP shuttle's infiltration. Far from the chaos, the EMP shuttle piloted by Captain Doran and Lieutenant Vega darted toward the enemy structure, cloaked in the shadow of the station's attack. Inside the cramped cockpit, tension was palpable. The hum of the stealth systems was the only sound as they approached the shimmering wall of the Predator's energy field. Cloaking systems holding steady, Vega reported, her voice calm but tense. We're 5 kilometers from the energy node. Good, Doran replied, his eyes fixed on the glowing structure ahead. Stay low and slow. We can't afford any mistakes. The shuttle slipped through a gap in the energy field, the shimmering light parting just enough for them to pass unnoticed. Inside the structure, the organic walls pulsed with an eerie bioluminescent glow. Tendrils of energy snaked through the air, searching for intruders. We're inside, Doran whispered. Bring us in close to the node. As they neared the target, the node came into view, a pulsating sphere of light encased in a lattice of dark, sinewy material. It was both beautiful and grotesque, radiating power that sent a shiver down Doran's spine. Activating EMP device, Vega said, her fingers flying over the controls. The device began to emit a low hum, its energy building. Then, the Predator reacted. The structure fights back. On the station, alarms blared as the enemy structure shifted its focus. The glowing tendrils extended outward, converging toward the station with terrifying speed. It's targeting us, Call shouted. Zorath gritted her teeth. Hold your positions. Keep firing. We need to buy them more time. A tendril struck the station's shield, sending a tremor through the control room. Sparks flew from the consoles, and the lights flickered. Shields at 60%. A technician reported. We can't take much more of this. Redirect all power to the shields, Zorath ordered. We hold the line. Meanwhile, inside the enemy structure, the tendrils began to close in on the EMP shuttle. Vega swerved sharply, narrowly avoiding a glowing whip that would have torn the craft apart. They've spotted us, she shouted. Hold it steady. Doran barked, strapping himself into the harness. He grabbed the manual trigger for the EMP device and locked it into place. Just a few more seconds. The shuttle weaved through the labyrinth of energy tendrils, dodging strikes with razor-thin precision. Finally, they reached the node, the device's energy levels peaking. EMP armed, Vega announced. Ready to detonate. Do it, Doran ordered. With a press of a button, the EMP device unleashed a wave of electromagnetic energy. The pulse rippled outward, slamming into the energy node with a blinding flash. The organic lattice shattered, and the node's glow dimmed to a faint flicker. The Predator falters. On the station, the tendrils froze mid-strike. The glowing shield around the structure flickered and dimmed, leaving the massive organism exposed. It's vulnerable, Call shouted. Commander, the shield is down. Zorath didn't hesitate. All weapons, focus fire on the core. Take it out now. The station's guns roared once more, this time with devastating effect. Plasma rounds tore through the Predator's exposed body, each strike sending chunks of organic material spiraling into space. The once imposing structure began to collapse, its tendrils retracting in a desperate attempt to protect itself. Inside the shuttle, Doran and Vega watched as the structure crumbled around them. Vega steered the craft through the debris, her hand steadied despite the chaos. We did it, Doran said, his voice heavy with relief. Get us out of here. The aftermath. As the last remnants of the enemy structure disintegrated, a silence fell over the battlefield. The Zorathian station, battered but still intact, floated amidst the wreckage. The crew erupted into cheers, but Zorath remained composed, her eyes fixed on the screen. "Open a channel to the Resolute," she ordered. Captain Doran's face appeared on the display, streaked with soot but alive. He gave her a tired smile. Not bad for an unlikely team. Zorath allowed herself a faint smile. "Don't let it go to your head, Captain. This doesn't make us friends." "Understood," Doran replied. "But for what it's worth, we couldn't have done it without you." Zorath nodded. "Nor could we have survived without you. Perhaps humans aren't as reckless as I thought." As the channel closed, Zorath turned to her crew. "Begin repairs and prepare a full report. This isn't over. Whatever created that thing may still be out there." The stars outside the station seemed brighter now, a fragile peace settling over the sector. But both humans and Zorathians knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had faced a predator unlike any other, and it would not be the last.